It happened on a cold winter evening as I was returning from a long journey. My car was stranded on a deserted road, and as I struggled against the increasing blizzard, I realized that I urgently needed to find shelter. The only source of light was an old sign that read in faded letters, "Hotel." I decided to follow the arrow, hoping to find a place to warm up. The road winding between snowy hills led me to a huge old building. It stood like a ghost of the past, surrounded by a dark forest. The light in the windows burned dimly, as if invisible forces were trying to blow it out. When I reached the entrance, the heavy door opened by itself, as if inviting me in. The cold wind whispered something unintelligible to me, but I chalked it up to fatigue and imagination. My footsteps echoed across the stone floor of the lobby. I closed the door and looked around. The hallway was eerily silent, and old paintings hung on the walls, reflecting the dim light of the lamps. Inside the hotel, I was greeted by a man in an austere suit. His face was pale, like a porcelain mask. He stood at the counter, watching me with his penetrating eyes. Approached him and asked, "How did you know I was coming?" He didn't answer, only pointed to the stairs leading up. I was given the key to room 13. The stairs creaked under my footsteps, and every sound echoed in the empty hallways. The walls were decorated with old paintings, with faded images of faces whose eyes seemed to follow me. I could feel their gaze without even trying to turn around. When I entered the room, it was surprisingly cozy. The warm light of a table lamp, a large bed with a soft blanket, a fireplace with a crackling fire. Yet the atmosphere was permeated with a strange tension. There was a magazine on the knit stand, and on the last page it read, "Do not leave the room after midnight." I grinned, figuring it was someone's evil joke. But something happened during the night that made me question my confidence. At exactly midnight, I heard a knocking sound. It was faint at first, but then it intensified. The knocking came from outside, as if someone was trying to get into the room. I went to the door and asked, "Who's there?" There was no answer. Instead, a low whisper came from behind the door, as if someone was calling my name. "This is stupid," I muttered and walked back to the bed. But as soon as I closed my eyes, the knocking resumed, louder and more distinct now. When I looked around, I noticed that the closet door was slightly ajar, though I definitely closed it. A strange uneasiness swept over me. I slowly approached the closet and, gathering all my courage, swung it open sharply. There was nothing inside but empty hangers. However, the odor emanating from the closet was nauseating, a mixture of decay and old age. As I closed the closet, I felt the temperature in the room plummet. My breath became vapor, and the fire in the fireplace went out on its own. In the mirror opposite the bed, I saw movement. I walked over to the mirror, and suddenly it began to frost over. Blurred silhouettes appeared on its surface, the faces of people. They whispered, Help us. Go away. My heart pounded like crazy. I turned around, but the room was empty. The only sound was the ticking of a clock whose hands stopped at 3:13. Without thinking, I grabbed my things and rushed for the exit. But the corridors I came in seemed endless. The walls shrank and the light in the lamps flickered, creating strange shadows. When I finally found the door leading outside, it wouldn't budge. A laugh sounded behind me, a low, ominous laugh. When I looked back, I saw a figure standing at the end of the hallway. Her eyes glowed in the darkness. I stood in the hallway, sweating and shaking with fear. The dark walls that seemed alive shrank around me, and every step echoed in the void. Suddenly I heard a barely audible sound. Footsteps. They sounded slow and heavy, as if someone was following me, getting closer every second. When I turned around, I saw her. The figure stood at the end of the corridor, motionless as if carved from stone. Her silhouette was a blur, but her eyes, they were bright, as if glowing in the darkness. The light of those eyes penetrated me, and I felt the air around me grow thick and cold. With every step she took, the shadows seemed to grow longer, stretching toward me, as if the darkness itself was coming alive and seeking to consume me. I squeezed my eyes shut, trying to pull myself together, but the figure moved closer and closer, its footsteps clearly audible, like a portent of the end. Gathering all my strength, I kicked at the door, and it swung open. As I flew outside, I noticed that the building was gone. Just snow, icy wind, and emptiness all around. When I told this story to the locals, they were silent. One old man said, "This hotel burned down a long time ago. Many people died there. You're lucky you got out. But not everyone gets out for good." Since then, every time I drive down that road, I feel someone's presence. And at night, I dream of those same faces in the mirror, begging for help.